So we
The Move Crew.
the move crew. So I am others are part of the
Bill
move
said that,
crew.
the Move Crew.
And the MOOC crew is important because one of the most important events in his district that he brought to this community, of course, was the agricultural show that's at the Tropical Park. So this is a couple of snapshots of a couple of things that happened within this really important district. And I've been in Miami a long time, so probably the oldest hot dog place or better.
Right.
Best. A lot of people don't, if you haven't been in the community a long time, because we have people from outside the area, this district is home to what's called horse country, which is a very unique thing within this community. This is Kendall Havoc's Park, and it's one of the few places in Miami-Dade County that has a froth course, frisbee golf, disc golf. So that's disc golf. So and I played it. So if you ever want to play, we talked about the cattle show at Tropical Park, one of the most amazing parks. That's another photo. You would think that it almost looks like Central Park. That's the lake at Tropical Park. As a kid growing up, I would take my remote control sailboat, and a lot of times you could do that there. Bird Bowl, one of the oldest bowling places in this community. I grew up going there, so this is and I actually, one of my first jobs was across the street at that Cuban restaurant that was right there on 97th in Coral Way. I was a busboy there many years ago. So even though I don't live in the district, I bleed the district.
The one with the fries?
No, not Lilas?
No,
No, it wasn't Lilas. It was so long I forgot the name, but the way that, no, it was, because I was probably all of 14, 15, and the way that they made sangria, and this is what I do remember. I would go to the soda machine, I would get Sprite, I would put grape soda, and and then of course wine, and then I would dump in a bunch of fruit cocktails from a can, and that was sangria. People loved it. People loved it. So anyway, with that, let me introduce Senator Soto so he can say a few words. I know he's got to go right after he finishes. He's got to go to another town hall meeting, so we really appreciate him making the time to join us for a few minutes. So Senator Soto, some words of wisdom for the group.
Thank you. Welcome to Westchester. Westchester is it's a very important part of Miami-Dade County. We are they call a donor community. We produce money for other communities, for other areas. We are sort of, we're okay. We have all kinds of commercial activities here. You were referring to Tropical Park. Tropical Park was bought for the county by Bill Talbert. Bill Talbert was a county employee when that was a racetrack called Tropical Park, and it was a bargain in those days. So Bill bought Tropical Park. This was before my time. Bill told me all about that, and then he bought also, I think, Black Point Marina also. Two very good investments.
And there was a drive-in theater across the street called Tropic Care, wasn't there?
Exactly. Yeah, the theater. Oh my goodness, I remember that. I forget it was there.
Drive-in movies.
Remember the drive-in movies?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is our library. It's one of the best libraries of Miami-Dade County. Very active, especially with families. It's always full of, especially on the weekends, Saturdays, full of kids with the mothers and the fathers, and different programs that we have. We have a storytelling program here that is famous, and they have a special room upstairs. There's almost the second floor dedicated to kids. The library for kids. The system of libraries it's tremendous. I chair the committee that deals with the parks and the libraries and the museums, and it's a committee that has a great impact on families and on the way people live, because we of course I'm also in the tourism and port and airport. I'm the vice chair of the tourism port stuff, but I chair where I both take a lot of my hours, and the importance of tourism in Miami is so determinant. It's so crucial to us. Actually, the first time that I came to Miami, I came as a tourist. They came as a tourist from Cuba. When I was 9 years old, I remember coming in a ship called the Florida. It was an older ship, and always full of people. And I love that trip because it was just beginning life. I came here with my uncle and my aunt, my godmother and cousins. It was Miami. Of course, Miami was a different Miami. We stayed at the beach and at the old Leamington Hotel that is still there in downtown Miami, I think it is. And I was, it blew my mind. Miami really, to me, was something else, and to a lot of people. It still is. Miami is one of the, I guess, one of the main destinations in the world. We were saying before that wherever you go, you mention Miami, and people know what Miami is. I've been in a couple of places where that really impacted me. For instance, I was in Venice one day in Italy with my wife. The weather was horrible. It was bad weather. There was some typhoon coming from Africa or something. It was raining, and then the traffic was bad getting there. And we were waiting for a ferry. We were taking the car in the ferry to Lido, I think it's called that park. And I was really, not feeling too happy about being there and investing money and time in that trip. But then I saw a sign of some girls in bikinis said Miami. All that, and then my whole thing changed. On another occasion, I was in Spain. I was a tourist that day also in Spain with a bunch of people in a bus, in a big bus with a lot of folks from Miami. I think most of them were. We were invited by the governor of that province, north part of Spain, and everybody left the bus, and we're going to have dinner in some village there. And I was the last guy leaving the bus, and the driver talks to me in Spanish, and we started the conversation. He says, he asked me in Spanish, do you know, what can you tell me about Miami Beach? Miami Beach. He said, Miami Beach. Oh, you're talking about Miami Vice. Oh, Miami Vice. Yeah, well, he wanted to know about Miami Vice. So, for one reason or the other, we're well known all over the world. Well known. And everyone likes Miami. Everyone has their own group, sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller. Some people like downtown, some people like the horses, they come here. Let me tell you, we're talking about horse country. Their horses, they're valued at over $1 million. Some of the Paso Finos and others, over $1 million a horse. Believe it or not, and there's many. It's not one or two. In Miami, I guess everyone feels happy and feels okay. So Miami is sort of an okay town for people to work. I go to other places, as you were saying, in these cattle shows and things that we organize, and everybody likes Miami, wherever you go. And then I tell them, well, yes, but of course these are guys that I know well, but you don't know all the little things that we have to take care of. Miami, it's complicated at times, and that's for us a big challenge to keep everything under control so that the tourism industry, which is our bread and butter, and it's the most important part of our economy, functions well. I was part also in the Senate when we created the tourism committee in the Senate many years ago, and I don't know how that is, if it's functioning well or not, or what.
Sort of.
What they do, I lost contact with those guys. When I go there, I just go mostly for the fairs and things, and I spent little time in Tallahassee. I try not to spend too much time in Tallahassee. It could be dangerous for your health, So or if I'm going to have a meeting with the old timers, the old guys who served there with me. Rolando and I, we have spent some good time in Texas mainly, right?
You said, yeah.
Promoting Miami, and everywhere I go around the world, I go with my hat and this little thing here. I got pictures from all over the world with the palm tree. We're very proud of our Miami. We are very proud of what we do here. Right now, from here, I'm going to go to a meeting in a soccer field that what you know that soccer field, right? That soccer field is state of the art. It's another one of my babies.
That's soccer, right there, upper left.
Yeah, it's one of my babies, and we started from nothing, and it's probably the best soccer field in the southern United States. 5 eliminated. By the way, tonight this is a soccer game. I want to see Brazil and Brazil and Paraguay tonight. So we're always pushing for. We're always going the extra mile. Always pushing for something. Marv is always inventing things and pushing a little bit stronger, a little bit farther away, and that's a challenge. I can't, American Express card, don't leave home without it. I can't live without pushing the guys a little bit more, and pushing myself a little bit more, because I think we have a great part of the world, probably the best. I wouldn't trade this place for anything, I think. And we have a great also demand on our efforts and time from the people who vote, our constituents, to do the best we can and to keep it well, keep it nice, keep improving it every day. I could tell you stories until tomorrow.
Well, you gotta get to your other meetings, so we don't want to keep you too long.
I was thinking in the days that many years ago when they gave me sometimes they bring all these things and they throw it in my desk, like when we started building the Drainage Center. That was a hectic thing, but that's another story. But I was going to tell you when the meetings of the presidents way back then of the Americans. President was Clinton in those days. Clinton came, and many others from all over South America, Central America, and the commission told me, "Well, you need to beautify this place. You need to do something about it." And that's when we started in this program of beautifying the avenues and the things and planting trees and going, and we were criticized for that because every time you do something here, some people love it and some people hate it, and some people say you put too much money to it. You planted too many trees. You planted too many palm trees. Why so many palm trees? And what? Well, because we want to make Miami, a really good looking place and everywhere. So we went with that, man. We went over. We got crazy doing stuff, but it is what it is. And I love it, Miami.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
No, please. In fact, you're going to the town hall. You want a few extra hats? So you can get them out of the other meeting? We'll get them to your office.
Yeah, thank you. Rolando.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you.
Well, thank you very
He's
much.
been,
Have a good time.
Thank you.
Senator mentioned Miami Vice. I've been, for those of you that, and I know we've got, let me see, what button is it? It's this button here? There you go. So Miami Vice, when was Miami Vice? It was 85, 80s. And when people ask me what are the things that really transform this as a community when it comes to tourism, I typically include our Art Deco hotels on South Beach, and there was a big preservation movement, and there was someone called Barbara Cappenman who passed away, and the people that saved those buildings really had a lot of foresight, because that became a huge factor in the renaissance of our industry, because our tourism was going down. In the early 80s, there was that famous cover, Paradise Lost on Time Magazine, if some of us remember that. But the other thing was Miami Vice. Miami Vice made Miami seem a lot cooler and hipper than we really were. We weren't really that cool or that hip, but it's, that scene, as you're crocking in tubs or going down MacArthur Causeway with the Genesis music in the background, Phil Collins strumming away. Miami Vice is probably running somewhere in the world right now in some different language on syndication. So, these are the kind of seminal moments that have really transformed Miami. I've been here practically my whole life, working at the Convention and Visitors Bureau for 20 some odd years. I know we have a lot of staff, but we have some guests. So I don't know if all of you know who we are, what we do. Some of you, I know we've worked with closely. But for those of you that may not know, we are the official sales and marketing organization for Miami-Dade County. And by that I mean for tourism, for meetings, for conventions, and also to bring big events into our community. We're the ones kind of behind the scenes that put together the bids for major events like Super Bowl, Pro Bowl, Major League Baseball, World Cup Soccer. We were the ones that were trying to bring the Democratic National Convention a few months ago. That didn't quite work out. I guess they gave us the debates as a consolation prize, so we'll take that. But in addition to that, in a little more detail for those of you that may not be familiar, these are just some of the things that we do on a daily basis. It runs the gamut from advertising, PR, research, meetings, as I mentioned earlier. So things that you would expect a sales and marketing company to do. In addition to that, we've got some specialty initiatives that focus on the LGBTQ market, which is important for Miami. We have another effort exclusively that is helping on the sports and entertainment scene. And entertainment is film, TV production. We work closely with our film offices. We also have a cultural tourism division, and that gentleman who used to work at the Arts Center, speaking of which, is helping further develop Miami as a cultural tourism destination. And that's big business, so we welcome that as well. So these are a lot of the things that we do, and of course we work with travel agents and tour operators around the globe. We're a fairly small company with a big global footprint. In fact, speaking of global, in addition to our offices here in Miami, not too far from here on Brickell Avenue, those little palm trees represent where we have representatives around the globe. Those representatives are folks that provide us with market intelligence. They help us coordinate sales activities, whether it's inbound or outbound. They help us with some research that needs that we may have. These are our eyes and ears throughout the world. We currently have about 53 folks throughout the world in different key markets. All these are key markets for us, whether it's Brazil, whether it's Argentina. We have someone in China, even though that's not a big market for us today. It has the potential, so we definitely like to have some intelligence on what's going on there. So we're, as I said, we're a small company with a global footprint, and that's important because Miami is a global destination. We have a lot of visitors from many, many countries from around the globe that help fill not only our hotels, but our restaurants. We are a private organization. People think we're part of the county government. We are not, but we do have an agreement with the county government. In fact, Senator Soto is one of 13 commissioners. He signs off on our contract, so he's a very important stakeholder for us as well. Then we have a separate agreement with the city of Miami Beach, and they're also critical partners for us as well. So we are in charge of what we consider and what the senator considers the #1 industry for this community. And in doing that, we're looking for the next 5 years. About every 5 or 6 years, we develop our strategic plan. It's a very comprehensive process, and it involves lots and lots of folks. Oh, I forgot this slide, and of course he left, but one of the things I want to talk about before the strategic plan is a lot of folks think that the only thing we do is promote South Beach. And of course the people in South Beach think that we don't promote enough of South Beach, right? So, but I do want to say that for many years now, we have, yes, we continue to be proud and market South Beach, which is the epicenter of our industry, but we launched probably about 8 years ago a campaign to showcase our neighborhoods. First it was under the umbrella of It's So Miami, then under Found in Miami, but regardless of what you call it, the call to action of that campaign is to expand the perception of Miami to those potential customers. So yes, we have an amazing South Beach, but we also have South Dade. You know, we've got Westchester to Wynwood. We've got, yes,
No.
Winchester.
Winchester.
And without the T, it's even better with Chester. So there's a lot of things that are happening throughout our community, and it's not just because we should be proud of how diverse we are as a destination, but frankly, is we want people to stay longer. And how do you get people to stay longer? You encourage them to explore more of Miami, and regardless of where they're staying, whether it's on South Beach or downtown Miami or in Coconut Grove, if we can encourage them and pique their curiosity and say, hey, why don't you explore? Where is the best hot dog place in Miami? It's in Westchester, you know? Frankie's Pizza, one of the best pizza places in Miami is Frankie's Pizza.
All my members.
You know, so there's a lot of, so there's a lot of great things that are happening in every part of our community. And and part of our role is to educate the world about all these jewels that live throughout our community, these experiences, these undiscovered moments. So that's what our campaign has been. This is a snapshot. This is on our website. It's in our publications. We talk about Westchester as proudly as we talk about Wynwood. Very different. And I know people say, well, you sure? We do. And I encourage you to look at our websites, our materials, and provide feedback. And even criticism if you feel that we're not doing a good enough job. So our Found in Miami campaign is one way that we're encouraging people to learn more about our destination, ultimately with the goal of staying longer, spending more money in our community, and of course in our hotels as well. I've already, you see a lot of numbers around the room. I'm not going to go through them, through all of them, but I am going to bring some attention to, I guess, these four. The first one is jobs. I'm employed in the hospitality industry. I think most of the people in this room are as well. And even if you don't think you are, you definitely know someone that is. So everyone benefits from this industry. We have about 142,000 folks directly employed, but indirectly, everyone is benefiting from that. Economic impact, about $18 billion is generated by those visitors, by those 23 million visitors. The other thing that we like to emphasize, and it's come up, and and by the way, if you feel this way, we welcome the opportunity to share with you some insight. Some folks feel that visitors don't pay their fair share. They come into a community, all they do is cause traffic, they leave litter, and destroy. When in fact, we would submit to you that that is not the case. In fact, tourists in 1 year alone generate about almost $500 million in taxes. And there's a lot of taxes that we all pay. They pay a lot more taxes than we do when they come into our community. They pay hotel taxes, they pay food and beverage taxes, they pay a homeless tax, they pay a sports tax, and all these taxes go into a lot of things that you and I enjoy, including the Arts Center. The Arts Center was built with tourist taxes. That facility would not exist without tourist taxes. The South Dade Cultural Center wouldn't exist. The Homestead Speedway wouldn't exist. A lot of the programs that we take for granted are predicated on tourist taxes. So we feel they pay their fair share. And the one thing that they also pay is they help with our transportation system. So remember, tourists are paying the same sales tax that you and I are spending. 0.5%, that infamous penny, half of it goes towards transportation, and the other half goes towards our public health system. Tourists pay about 36% of all the sales taxes in our community, so they too are contributing to those things as well. All right, so let's kick it into strategic planning gear. As I mentioned, we do this about every 5 or 6 years. It's really important for us to create our roadmap for the next 5 years. And that is not just about our industry, it's about the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We want to evolve as our community evolves, as our industry evolves. So this process is to look externally within the community, but also internally. So a few months ago, we went through a very comprehensive review process to identify a consultant that could help us with this strategic planning process. We've got a lot of great interest from some high-powered firms, Ernst & Young, Deloitte, Boston Consulting. These are very powerful names in the consultancy world. We assembled a committee because we like to do things very inclusive and very transparent. That committee went through a very deliberate process, and we ended up selecting who we feel is the best partner that has led us and is guiding us throughout this process. The great news is they've been doing business in this community for quite some time. Intervistas is a company that has worked intimately with the airport in bringing new airlines to service our community. And that's critically important because we're down there at the tip of Florida. So international flights, especially overseas to markets like Europe and South America, are so important for the lifeline of our community. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Vinces by introducing the project manager on this consultancy, and that is Sonia Murray. So Sonia, there you go.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. We really appreciate your coming out. We know you don't have lots of time and it's limited, and to come after your work day and spend a couple of hours with us, we really appreciate it. So I just wanted to talk very briefly about the overall strategic plan. We started this effort in late December and we will finish it at the end of September. We have been on a number of trips here, really getting immersed in the various parts that make up Miami-Dade and learning quite a bit. In terms of our strategic plan, there are 6 elements to it, which are illustrated right here, sorry. And I'm sure some of you have probably gone through strategic planning, but the overall goal of the plan is to help drive more visitors. And we're looking out over the next 5 years, which is a little challenging, right? Because the world changes so quickly in 1 year. And if you think about sort of even some of the great neighborhoods that are here, you know, what they were like 5 years ago versus now, right? There's been so many changes. But we're looking out over the next 5 years at that. And we're also helping to identify some new visitor opportunities. There's a lot that's here beyond the beautiful beach and sun assets that you have. And we really believe that there is sort of, some of it's just not as well known, or a lot of people aren't as aware of all of the different offerings from all of the different type of visitor segments, and both visitors in the sense of leisure as well as conferences and meetings. And then the final piece of this plan is going to help to enhance and elevate the GMCVB's role, helping them to sort of get around the issues that involve tourism both directly and indirectly, and sort of where can they lead, where can they support, where can they facilitate various aspects that are going to help drive more visitors to the region. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle, who's going to talk about the very extensive outreach process that we've been going through.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I love the stakeholder part because that's you guys. And I've had an opportunity to meet so many different people. I've lived here 25 years. So I'm the local presence on the team. And I just want to talk you through a couple of slides. We have facilitated some interviews, meetings, one-on-one workshops, one-on-one sessions with some of the most important stakeholders in this entire county. 85 plus so far. 2 meetings and workshops with the GMCVB management, and we will end the process with a visioning workshop. You are lucky number 13. 13 is a good number for me. I don't know about other people, but this is the 13th town hall. We have 15 scheduled, and just wanted to show you a map of where we've been so far and where we're going. Having lived here 25 years, I still don't know everything here. Some of the places that I've been introduced to through the town halls have been phenomenal gems that are hidden, and so it encourages me to do staycations, but you can only imagine a person who doesn't live here and only thinks they're the beaches. So having gone over the entire county through these town hall meetings has been quite informative. 4 focus group sessions we've had so far, 8 committee facilitations, and we have sent out and distributed surveys. You can participate in those surveys if you like. If you go to destinationmiami.org, you can take a look at past videos of some of the town halls we've already had and just get a feel for what we've been doing. So we're going to jump right into the town hall discussion, and it will be centralized around 4 key questions. We're going to talk to you about unique experiences, new tourism opportunities, resident quality of life, and GMCVB new initiatives. And we'll kind of explain that as we go. So the first question, what are the existing tourism experiences that are not being sufficiently showcased? And that hot dog stand clearly is because I didn't know a thing about it. So we might want to get into that. But what we've asked as we've gone through these sessions across the county is for you to tell us something that might be happening in this area that we might not know about, but it could be across the entire county. So we're in West Dade. What are the existing tourism experiences that are not being sufficiently showcased? Where did the chamber guy go? Did he step out on us? Because I thought maybe he'd have some good information, but hopefully he'll come back. So who wants to kick this off? Because is anybody here directly from Westchester or West Dade from this area? Then you're lucky number one. So other than the hot dog stand, can you think of something? Because I think things like that are really cool. I think that when we talk about some of the suggestions that have come up in the town hall meetings to include walking tours, foodie tours, tours that are specific to foods from certain locations, you want to go to a place that's been here 50 or 60 years. So,
Well, I think the food, kind of like the culinary scene is
Mhm.
growing a little
Yes.
more in the area. We have a croqueta bar, which
Where?
opened up in Coral Way.
okay.
And we have Lincoln Beard, which is a brewery on Bird Road. So I think the local flavors is something maybe that we can showcase. And if you're talking about families, this library is awesome. Like, I'm a local, I live down the block, and I'm here all the time.
I used to work for Miami-Dade Transit back in my old days, and we would have meetings here, and it's always been very active and just warm. And I think libraries are not getting, books aren't getting as much play as they used to, but libraries certainly could use some revitalization or some assistance by having events here. So yeah, this is a good library. Yes, sir. Oh, go ahead. Ladies first? Okay.
Go ahead. The best dim sum, tropical Chinese, across from
on
Tropical
Bird-
Park
is that the
in the entire
yes,
city.
Yes,
Both.
yes. I think I've been there for Chinese New Year, where you sit and they
Yes.
bring. Oh, yeah, my stomach hurts. Absolutely. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm from West Dade.
Okay.
To be exact, 43rd and 167th Avenue, some new developments in that area. My favorite restaurant would have to be the Cuban restaurant Isla Canarias. We talk about croquetas, they have the best croquetas.
There's a big croqueta war in Miami.
Isla Canarias.
But see, for me, having seen them placed in Cuban bread and turned into a sandwich was just, that was, Sonia, who doesn't really like to do a lot of carbs, you would have passed out dead because it was such an amazing thing. So thank you for that one. And I think that just ties a community and makes the community what it is because people are talking about it, but I live up on the north end and I don't know a thing about it. And I would drive here to do that. And I have, like I said, I came for Chinese New Year, so certainly. Any other experiences right here or within Miami-Dade County? Because Sonia's going to be describing questions 1 and 2, and then we're going to, tag team like Mucha Lucha, and then I'm going to do 3 and 4. Go ahead.
We have Tamiami Park not so far away, and there's a lot of events going on there almost weekly. The youth fair
Yes.
happens every year as well.
And where is the cattle thing?
That's a tropical park.
What is that called
that park?
officially?
It's called the
event.
Miami International
Agriculture
Agriculture and Cattle Show. I think it's a mouthful.
That's cool.
But this area, I think to your point, proportionally has a lot of parks. And it's because it's very family friendly. But Tamiami Park is huge. You've got Tropical Park, Kendall Hammocks Park is really big. Now I know we have some guests that aren't from West Dade, but as you know, and I know you in particular live in Sunny Isles and work on South Beach. So even though we're in West Dade, we want to hear from things that you think are not being showcased. Maybe it's in South Beach, maybe it's in Sunny Isles.
Absolutely.
I know we have some guests from other places. How are you doing? Good to see.
Hi, how are you?
Well, I don't know much about New Jersey, but but
I was wondering, is there any type of like hiking or
There is.
outdoor stuff where you could draw the people here by that focus? You have it obviously down in Miami, and down, but something that would draw them here.
Key Biscayne has Virginia Key. If you're mountain biking, there's a lot of road biking that goes around there too.
Okay.
I've seen runners, like run clubs, share the bike trails
Yeah.
with fellow bikers to do their workouts. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was anything up around in this area, where you can.
Yeah, Key Biscayne.
Doesn't Tropical Park have water activities, I believe?
I thought they did. I don't know if they did.
Tropical Park, what I've noticed is that there's a lot of run clubs there that run around there.
The boot camp.
There's boot camps, there's boxing gym. My favorite, they have a track, and you have access to going into that track and running in that track too. Very high end, very nice, and it's free.
Also tennis
a tennis club as well, if you're into tennis. But Olida Park, down north, you could do stair hiking, mountain bike.
Okay, anybody else for question 1? Can we shoot to question 2 now?
Actually, I'm gonna kind of add look because I'm gonna put our friend here on the spot because because we were having a conversation earlier and he operates a hotel in the heart of South Beach, right? 9th and Ocean.
And third in Ocean.
And third, two in the heart of South Beach. And I said earlier that South Beach is kind of like the epicenter of our industry. But people have a perception of Miami Beach or South Beach. But what are some of the things that perhaps you are aware of, whether it's in the South Beach area or even in Sunny Isles, which is home to you, that you think we could do a better job of showcasing? Things that people may not be aware of. Does anything come to mind?
Actually, I wanted to say an interesting thing about hot dog. The best hot dog apparently in Miami. Today I had a guest from Germany that told me they're going to go to try the best hot dog in Miami. And I didn't know. And I asked them, what exactly you're going to go to? I'm going to ask them tomorrow if they went to this place, because I didn't know. So I guess, I don't know if I'm answering this particular question, but I will tell it before I forget. With all the neighborhoods that residents know so well, and they know what it has to offer, whether it's a great croqueta bar, hiking activities, and things like that. It's great to have a database, which you mentioned that is being worked on or already active on the website of GMCVB or through GMCVB. It's crucial because we'll be able to train the team when they converse with the guests. It's crucial because it's kind of sometimes a beaten path, right? When guest comes to South Beach, what do we talk about? We talk about Ocean Drive, right? We talk about the spot where Scarface movie was shot, the Versace house, just the Art Deco design. You can walk and see the hotel that if you're interested in particularly in architecture. We talk about Espanola Way and Lincoln Road. But then you'll be surprised, a lot of guests, since everybody's now doing research on their own, know the spots that we don't usually tell the guests. And then you think about it, we feel guilty as hotel operators, as ambassadors of the city. That, for example, I feel guilty that I didn't know that spot. Most probably that guest from Germany mentioned this spot, and I didn't know. And I could have added a few more things. Hey, since you're there, check something else. So information is important. It would be greatly appreciated that it's provided to us in the simplest possible form where we can train the staff. And secondly, what I notice a lot of times when, for example, what do we else recommend? A person staying, our average length of stay is 2.7, let's say 2.8, close to 3. One day is enough for them to bike around South Beach, and then they want to go to Wynwood, they want to go to Little Havana, they want to go to Coconut Grove and whatnot. Biggest concern is the transportation. And I know that it's not the subject of this meeting, it's maybe
it's part of it, actually.
But it's important to know so many times, because European travelers, which we have a lot, almost half of our guest base, are used to jumping on a train, jumping on a bus, getting somewhere, and they simply, sometimes they can't just afford renting a car every day with the outrageous parking expenses. So transportation has been a big challenge, and but again, information is important, so when you work on the strategic plan, it would be highly beneficial for hotels to have that, so we can be, because all of us are concierges after all, from GM to the bell.
To your point, we had a facilitation with the cultural arts and tourism committee, and that was brought up. They said if you could get us a list of email addresses to concierge persons, managers, so we can tell them. The example that was offered is that someone was staying at the hotel on the Lowe's. They asked, where can I go to a museum? And they were sent to Perez, but the Bass was right around the corner. And because the concierge didn't immediately think of the Bass Museum. And that was the point that we captured, better education through information of concierge to be able to promote some of the hidden or some of the things you wouldn't immediately think about. Absolutely.
But answering this question, Sunny Isles, as you may know, is mainly Russian-speaking population from former Soviet countries, myself included. I'm from former Soviet country. I don't offer it to my Russian guests because when I tell them, hey, you can go buy something from Russian deli, they said, I just ran from Moscow.
How to work that?
Give me Cuban
Cuban
food.
Yeah.
And we would say, and pardon my limited knowledge, like Puerto Sagua, things like that, but I need to get more information apparently about that. But Sunny Isles is that strip, Bell Harbor, Sunny Isles, Hallandale Beach, very family friendly. Just for those people, especially who plan to invest here, for example, I would talk to Brazilian guests and even with the Russian guests. Some of them express their interest in buying apartments and living here or sending their kids. I would tell them, go check those neighborhoods out. So I'm kind of also, I hope I'm impacting real estate market in a way. Sunny House is about mainly that. And then I always would tell them Hollywood. I don't know if you visited Hollywood Beach area.
I live in
What I like about it is actually, I guess it's the only place where you can have cafes and restaurants on the beach. On the beach. So a lot of people expect that when they come to Ocean Drive, and sometimes they're surprised. So you have nothing on the beach, and we tell them, we have Miami River, we have some things in downtown, some places on south of Fifth. So Hollywood Beach is interesting in that way, and it's growing. So I guess that's pretty much it. What I wanted to say.
Tell them Barrio Latino
Say
in
it again.
Aventura. Barrio Latino, the best Cuban place in Aventura. It's in the mall where the Marshalls is, the Super Marshall, the promenade shops.
Okay. See, I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
I was just there today. I had a great time. That's my home. That's my cheers. They know my name. Okay. Let's go to 2. Thank you very much, guys, for all of that input on question number 1. What are the tourism services or products that do not yet exist but should be developed? And that was just a great example of it. So something that's not at your access right at this moment that would help you as a local tourist. I still consider myself a tourist. I have not been to Key West yet. I've lived here 25 years. I'm sort of embarrassed, but not really. Because that's just a long way to go for me just to see more blue water. I'm like, no, I think we got the best blue water here. So maybe I've just been lazy. But with that, what service or product? We've been given the suggestion to take the information from the variety of great, diverse neighborhoods and pack it all into an app or some type of accessible platform where you can find out at your moment's notice what's happening in Little Haiti, what's happening in Cayocha, what's going on in the individual neighborhood. So anything you can think of or anything you've seen in other places that might work here.
So, yes.
Yes.
So there is a gentleman in Cambodia that started the refill, and it's the water bottles with a QR code on it. And so what happens is, as long we get them printed, and then they can go into different places. It could be a restaurant, it could be a hotel. It's to minimize the plastic through tourism.
Yeah.
And they said even like some of the people that actually sell the plastic water bottles, we're seeing increase in revenue from other products because it's bringing the people in. So it's just in the very beginning. A lot of the like the cruise lines and the tours want to have no plastic. They're going to commit to that. So that's something. And they have some items. They might have some down here in Miami. I have to look, but they have a few like parks and stuff up in New York City that have it. So it's becoming like a community-based where people, if they have, they can go on and see where the next refill is for water.
They have that on Miami Beach.
They do have that. Okay.
No, but I think it's just beginning.
Yeah.
And again, the person that started it is actually from Miami, forward, the one that they have on Miami Beach.
I'll have to take a look at that. This gentleman, it's more of a
great idea.
Well, it's for instance, I'm with an organization called Tourism Cares, and it's on a much broader spectrum now, and it's in the infancy stage, but it's starting to grow, and
It's a great idea.
yeah. So I think
And
that
I think a lot of people want to help the plastic bottle epidemic.
yeah. So I think if they started something in Miami Beach, I'll have to take a look at that. I think that
On the
that's
bike paths.
on the bike path.
You'll see
I'll have to
that.
take a look at that, but I think that is, I think that would be great for you to be, ahead of the majority.
Yeah.
Think about that, so I think that would be something that,
Countywide.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
any other product or service that could be implemented here. And a lot of times I like to hear the things that people have experienced in other countries, other cultures. At the town hall on Tuesday, a young lady suggested night vendors, as such as you see in Southeastern Asian countries and Asian countries where at night they block off the street and you can go and just buy food from different vendors who have set up, as opposed to just looking for things that are happening in the daytime. They start at night and they go late into the night, and it's just centered around food or products. Anything you can think of that you've seen someplace else?
Place, I think in North Beach, a little Argentina neighborhood, for instance, has food truck, 71st Street on certain days. They start in the evening. I'm not sure how late they go, but it takes place. And it goes back again.
Near the band shell or the amphitheaters, or is it
Near amphitheater actually, and right on the beach.
Is it food or is it also like crafts and products?
I've seen just food. Maybe that's I was paying attention. Maybe just the food spot. Maybe.
They have food truck crawls here too, at Tamiami Park and at Tropical Park as well. I'm not sure what day of the week, but they do them all. They show up.
It's not something that doesn't exist, but again, I'm just going to share something from experience, and you can filter it and see. We have, for instance, a lot of travelers from Germany, and they like to bike around. They rent motorcycles, and they complain several times about difficulties in motorcycle parking in Miami Beach. And then they come with groups, and they rent like 10, 12 bicycles. I'm just going to throw it out there.
so motorcycles or bicycles?
Motorcycles, sorry, not bicycles. Motorcycle parking has been a hassle in Miami.
I was just going to say for question one, I was hoping someone would mention it, but I think it's important to, this community has an art and culture scene actually. Many people are not aware. There's a warehouse scene, the Bird Road Warehouse District, and they're activating events, and they've got galleries, and they're doing their own open nights. So I just feel like that has not been talked about enough, and I think there's an opportunity there. Yeah, and the Croqueta Bar, by the way, standing room only and a line to get in. So I think there's something there. It's called Dos Croquetas. It's on Bird Road, but it's doing very, very well, and they're curating unique flavors of croquetas. So it's like a thing now, and that's happening all here in West
I
Miami.
think a food tour could work. You know, we have the Night Owl, which is a super popular cookie place that is, again, like the line is out the door. You know, we've got the brewery. We've got some unique, different places that could work but they're not, it would be tough to walk. It would have to be kind of like in a small little trolley or some sort of a bus.
Kind of hop on, hop off. Yeah. Let's go back to 2. Thank you, Jen. Do we want to move to 3 or, go ahead, yes, sir.
I have friends that work at NYC and Company. One of the things that when I started doing, working a little bit closer with them, one of the things that they talked about is New York City has a lot of charging stations for cell phones throughout the city. That and I think that's something with maybe whether it's downtown or whether it's on the beach or any of the communities, that would be something that could be. I mean, it's huge for visitors that come in, and I'm sure for the residents as well. But there could be certainly could be something that could be added to our community, and great opportunity.
Are they complimentary or is some kind of paid?
I'm not 100% sure how they operate, whether they're complimentary or not. Certainly can find out. I have from them, but I know that that's something that they did recently. Started last couple of years. They started implementing those throughout the city in Manhattan and things like that. So.
Anything else before we move to question 3? You want to wrap that up, Sonia? Do you want me to give you a little more time?
Yes.
Okay. Thelma?
Okay. Thank you very much. So thank you for your answers. I'm gonna, it's a more casual group, so I was thinking I might just sit down. If you guys are all right, so we can talk.
The whole time? Come on.
So this next question really kind of speaks to, quality of life issues and Miami has been very fortunate, all of Florida really, sort of from the beginning of the state opening. There's some beautiful assets here, so lots of people have come down to visit on vacation and so this kind of speaks to the idea of how do we better balance the growth of the tourism that has been happening here for the last 20 years, very successfully, with the quality of life for the residents. We've been having and hosting these mega events that started small. We've been very fortunate with some of the music festivals, and they've really, really grown. For 3 days or 4 days, they really can. A lot of people focus on the negative. The press focuses on the negative, and there's sort of not a focus as much on, well, what does that bring in the way of revenue, right? What does that bring in the way of spending by tourists, and sort of that more positive side, because there's always a positive side to it. But sort of how do we better balance the growth of our tourism market, which is a very important industry for us, while keeping in mind the quality of life for our locals? Any sort of thoughts on that?
I'm going to stimulate the conversations on going back to transportation, because I will tell you, I'm a resident, I'm a marketer. Transportation continues to be at the top of the list when it comes to one of this community's challenges. And what's good for residents, good for the tourists, because residents want to experience local, authentic experiences. So, while we can't figure out transportation, part of this process is identifying where we, as the tourism organization, need to be part of a conversation. That we may either lead, we may facilitate conversation, or support it in some way. And of all the things we're hearing, and we've heard a lot, transportation continues to hammer away. I mean, whether you live in Sunny Isles or in South Miami-Dade, it's, because it entails the ability for us to attract workers and employees for our industry. I'm sure you've encountered some challenges as hotel operators. But moving people around, residents and tourists, is critical. So that's something that we're committed to doing. We can't write a check to extend the Metro Rail down to South Dade, but if we can be an active partner in having those discussions and emphasizing how important it is, not just for residents, but for the #1 industry in this community, that's going to be part of the conversation. You mentioned Ultra, and I just got a text message because our boss, Bill Talbert, was in front of the City Miami Commission just now, and he just texted me that they deferred the decision on Ultra till July 25th. And as you know, that was an event. Some people feel that it's outgrown downtown Miami. And some people feel that it's a critical part of what has made Miami as special as it is. But that's a perfect example of what we are running into, is this balance between residents, and we have a new downtown that just a few years ago wasn't that vibrant. And now a lot of folks live downtown, and it's home to a lot of marquee events, and those events are being pushed out. So it's that balance. I mean, when you look at what's happening in Amsterdam or Barcelona or Venice, there's that word that you hear, over tourism. We don't want to be there. Some people think we may already be there in certain parts of our community. If you live in South Beach during Art Basel or the boat show, even though that's changed, those can be some challenging times. And we have to also educate the benefits of tourism versus the inconvenience that may happen. So I think depending on where you're at, West Dade may not have a major issue with over tourism. But we have to look at this holistically as a community as a whole. So whereabouts do you folks live?
In New York area.
New York.
Visiting.
Over tourism in New York?
Yeah. Well, I think
Summer there is.
But we run into similar issues.
Well, and it is, and also the tour companies, they want to make sure that they're not, creating a problem also, with over tourism to certain areas, because it is affecting the quality of life.
Sure.
Sometimes it's a good problem. You're saying it's
Well,
a good problem
it
because
is.
it's creating such revenue, It
is. I mean, a lot of people would love to have that problem. Wow, you have too many tourists that are coming with their money to spend in the community. But we are at that, we're getting to that point in certain pockets of our community. So part of what we're doing, and that's the benefit of that campaign that I mentioned earlier, Found in Miami, it's the technical term is visitor dispersal. So you can get the same amount of people or even more, but if you move them around the community, then you mitigate the impact. And that's something that we're hoping to implement as well. Now, of course, you need transportation to move them around, especially from customers that are used to a certain standard of transportation, especially Europeans. But this is, of all the things that keep us awake at night, this is probably up at that list. Because what we don't want is for our residents and then ultimately our political leaders to say, okay, enough is enough, and then start closing down the resources that allow us to continue to market to bring more tourists. And for us, it's not about just more, it's also about the quality of the tourists. And because we can probably get many, many more tourists, but our hotels are fairly expensive. Maybe not all, throughout, we're the fourth most expensive hotel community in the United States. And during the first quarter, we're the most expensive. So we also want to target our efforts to bring a certain customer that can afford our destination, that can spend a lot of money. And the same thing happens for meetings and conventions. We're not a big convention town. We are a kind of a mid-level quality versus quantity, because this issue of balancing the quality of life for us is really, really near and dear.
Yeah, and just to kind of going back to the ultra piece, again, sort of a lot of people focus on, it's 3 days, it's crowds, it's noise. GMCVB does a really great job of tracking a lot of statistics, and that week of ultra is the second largest revenue week for hotels in the year, behind New Year's Eve. Now, I don't know where these EDM fans are getting, this money, but when they stay in the hotels, remember half that penny tax, right? Half of it's going to transportation, the other half is going to healthcare. So just if you think about that bump, and so if you lose that, right? So and that's associated with jobs, or if it goes somewhere else because somehow we can't get the right people together to say, okay, how do we do this right over 3 days? So. And that's really the discussion that GMCVB is going to start leading more of. But all right, well, let's move to question 4. It's our last question. Are there any new initiatives? This question focuses on the GMCVB specifically. The other question's really focused on the destination. But are there any new initiatives that the GMCVB should develop in the next 5 years? It's a big question. It's 5 years. But are there any new initiatives that you think that the GMCVB could be doing? One of them being, let's try to put together some kind of comprehensive database that we can, and I think it's great, get out to. It's not going to happen overnight, but get out to all the different constituents so that every visitor can enhance their experience when they're talking to someone that just knows something about what they want.
I actually wanted to mention. Mr. Orlando mentioned about the residents, what's GMCVB's role, and I guess it's all 3 roles depending on the time: facilitating conversation or leading it. Because if, for example, residents are fully aware and informed about the impact of tourism, I guess the conversation will be easier with them. I've been in some meetings with Mayor Gelber, and the number one concern that residents, for example, brought up to his attention. One of it was, for example, loud noises of expensive cars, right? Ferraris and Lamborghinis creating disturbances in the neighborhood. Now, don't get me wrong, I come from a place where that would be the dream of a community. They would ask for water, for electricity.
Sure.
So, but I guess at times we, the operators, feel that maybe the city government might go to some unreasonable actions, or maybe they would. And I'm going to say it as it is, maybe would, be more accepting of everything that the residents would come up with, right? I'm just not strictly speaking, I'm a resident myself, but also I'm a hotel manager. And sometimes I think some regulations or laws are anti-business, right? I may be a bit outspoken or exaggerating a little bit. But again, throwing it out there because it's not easy to be in the shoes where you have to balance the comfort of residents, families living here, and incoming tourism, right? Incoming visitors. Speaking of, for example, a specific issue, just moving to the next subject, parking, right? Parking for employees. I have a lot of times my employees complaining about that. New hires, they don't want to work in South Beach and Ocean Drive a lot of times because, and we are one of the few companies that pay for the parking for our employees. We might not pay the highest per hour rate, but we cover their parking, and they appreciate that. Now, I don't know if it's something that, for example, for a new construction, can it be a city-mandated ratio that they can enforce? I know in old buildings you can't do much, but in a new construction, something to take into consideration, the workforce and their comfort, and this way you will be able to retain good talent and also not congest, I guess, the streets with parking. So parking is something that comes up a lot. And yet, just again, I go back to information. I go back to informing the residents about the impact, about the events, and what kind of effect, whether good or bad, it will have on their neighborhood, their particular neighborhood. I think Miami has the advantage that with all the emerging neighborhoods that were not known before or were underdeveloped, city will spread. So I don't think over-tourism is something that's near to Miami because we have so much space to grow versus Amsterdam or Barcelona, where that's pretty much it. So if we manage our transportation system properly, if we develop smartly, we have that land advantage, so to say, or advantage of space, right? But those are some of the things I would say from my end. The parking, for example, and then in educating the residents.
I think those are great comments, thanks. And I think sort of like a bigger umbrella sort of descriptor might be the workforce development that you're kind of talking about. And since the tourism industry is the #1 job creator in the county, it's a very complex issue. You know, making sure people can park, making sure they have a good wage, making sure that that they can live closer by to the places that they work because they can afford them, right? And it goes beyond GMCVB, but it seems to me they would be sort of at the head of that table convening because the job industry that's tied to tourism is so important, right? So you bring up some really good points, for sure. Thank you.
I did want to share with you that in terms of new initiative, because again, this is 13 out of 15, so there's been, the transportation comes up consistently. The other thing that comes up consistently and is already an initiative that we're starting to develop is we spend a lot of time selling and marketing, communicating to the world and to the country, but we need to do a much better job of communicating locally in terms of the benefits and the impact of tourism. I mean, I know we're here today, we're doing our strategic plan, we're going out throughout the community, and we're all energized because we're doing the new plan, but it's painfully obvious that our own residents are so unaware, not only the benefits of tourism, but candidly, a lot of what we do. And which is unfortunate because we're proud of what we do. We're not perfect, but we feel that we're committed to it. So one of the things that we're already going to be developing is an institutional, systematic approach, and it's going to take money and resources to speak to our residents and our local stakeholders, including our politicians, on an ongoing basis about the impact of tourism, of which some of it is around the room today, but also our specific efforts and what we're doing. And for example, just today and recently, we launched a local corporate Twitter channel under the leadership of Jennifer Diaz, and we're every opportunity that we can to showcase what we're doing, not just locally, but I think, Deborah, you were in Jamaica just a few days ago, working hard, developing the community, and Joe, where's your next trip off to? Where's your next?
Brazil.
Brazil, right? So the Convention Visitors Bureau on any given day is doing something in some part of the world. But sometimes our most important stakeholders, the politicians that write our checks or the residents that support us, aren't even aware of it. So that's one new initiative that we are committing to doing better. The other one that's come up a little bit earlier on was this idea of training. So as other parts of our community develop and are able to become attractive to tourists, we want to make sure that the small businesses, whether it's a restaurant or a small retail establishment, are prepared to benefit and have whether it's everything from customer service, communication skills, basic, accepting credit cards, things that we take for granted in South Beach, even downtown. But if you're in Little Havana or even in some parts of Westchester, they may not be accustomed to an international guest or even a guest from throughout the U.S. So we have a small training program in place already that focuses on some of our cultural neighborhoods. But I think based on some of the early recommendations, we need to do more of that. And which, by the way, if we do more of that, then we raise our profile in the local community. So we're not only just out there selling around the world, but we're developing the infrastructure, in this case the human capital, to allow more people to benefit and share in the wealth of tourism. And that's another thing that we're looking to be more committed to, is how can more people benefit directly, not just indirectly, but directly from the revenue that is generated by this industry. So those are other new initiatives that we're not even waiting for the process to finish, because they have come across so clearly being priorities for us. So are there any other things like that you feel that as a tourism office, and even if you lived here, teleport yourself to Miami? We work closely with the folks up in NYC, by the way. They're dear friends. And it's a whole different structure up there.
And I know because I'm members of both. So totally different. But totally enjoy coming.
There's only one government structure there. It's all the city. Here we have 35 governmental structures that make up Miami. 35.
Totally different. It is.
Yeah. Ironically, right now, where we stand, we're not within any city. There is no city. This is unincorporated. So.
And I would say similar in the sense that they're well-known destinations.
That's basically
lots of attraction from
New York is trendy, Miami's trendy.
Yes.
Yeah. Two totally different animals.
One of the things that we are doing similar to our friends, and they launched it a couple of years ago, and our version is different but similar, is showcasing the boroughs, right? Which is one way of showcasing the diversity of New York, and that's what we're doing here in Miami. But it's also helping move more people around. Now, the transit system in New York makes it a little bit more conducive to do that. But
and 8 miles by 2 miles.
Well, yeah, what I'm hearing is that what I'm really hearing is that you really need to communicate to the local businesses that you're supporting them. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You're supporting them through the people that are coming in, and the amount of money that's coming in here that's being put back into the area is amazing.
Yes.
I'm sitting here looking at these numbers, and so you have to simplify it. But that's what you need to, because of course when like the over-tourism that you're talking about, or when someone has an inconvenience getting around because there's an event in here, well, this is really a huge support to this community,
and it might make them a little more tolerant for those mega events, or it might, make the politicians a little more business friendly, because the city of Miami Beach is a city of 90,000 residents. So this massive global city that we all call Miami Beach, that attracts attention from around the world, is 90,000 residents. That's teensy, but they're very active.
Feels like that.
So they're a very active 90,000 residents. And again, I've been in Miami a long time, and I think per capita, Miami Beach must have the most activist residents that I think, which is good. You want that. You want, and they're very intellectually engaged. But so those politicians, you have 7 commissioners that were elected by those 90,000. So they're very responsive, sometimes too much so, to those residents, and that goes back to balancing the resident needs with the industry's needs, because a lot of those residents don't fully appreciate that your hotels and the revenue that you're generating is to some extent allowing them to benefit from perhaps lower tax rates on their homes, or investments in their local library system, or those art exhibits. That connection, unfortunately, and that's what we need to do a better job of, connecting that benefit from that tourist. And that's not just our challenge, it happens all over the place. But if we're going to remain relevant as an organization, we have to do a better job. We just do.
I think you guys are doing a great job. I think that when I come in here, I appreciate how clean it is. You may not think so because you might be driving in different area, but you know, as a tourist, you come in here and like Brickell and South Beach, you know, it's
Makes a
well
difference.
kept. So just make sure you keep it well kept because it's well, no, it's attractive. So
The questions we covered were just a framework, but, and again, you know, we've had some of these where we've had 100 people. This is a much more intimate group, which gives you more special attention. But is there anything, forget about the questions for a second, you know, I'm the chief operating officer. I'm also the chief marketing officer for the organization. We've got a lot of senior team members here, our director of research. Anything that you want to share with us, regardless if we've covered it or not, anything that you've learned through your hotel operations, through some of yours, through your attraction, it's a great opportunity. I mean, and by the way, good or bad, we need to learn and we need to evolve. So I guess as we close this out with cattle.
yeah, that's interesting.
I think, well, again, the senator,
Yeah.
he is a cattle rancher, so we were playing to.
There was a senator here before you got
No,
here.
Yeah. Does anybody know the species of this cow?
No.
Extra credit, Robert, you can't answer. That's Brahmin. Brahmin. So Cebu. So it's a very, believe it or not, it's a hybrid that does very well in the tropics and subtropics. I've learned this stuff because I've hung out with him way too long.
I lived in Texas and I still don't even know that.
and one of those things is about $30,000. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Though. They have them in India.
Yeah. Well, that's where there's India. They bred them in India, Brazil.
They're key.
They're sacred.
Sacred.
Yeah, they worship. I'm not.
So I know we haven't. Where are you from? Are you?
West State, farther out west.
How far out
6
west?
miles, 157
Oh
Avenue.
my goodness, the edge of the universe.
Swamp, I think, at one
Yeah.
point.
So growing up in Miami, I would take Miller, and it stopped. It was
Yes.
it was gravelly road till Chrome, but now.
Yeah, the transportation is bad.
Did you know we even existed?
Oh, sure.
Okay, no, I know it sounds weird, but a lot of people don't even know we exist because most of what we do is not here. We've developed some local programs like a restaurant program, Miami Spice. It's been very real popular. And those are the things that you're the Spice guys or girls. But those are the types of things that have allowed us to become better known locally. And that training program that I mentioned earlier as well. But generally, some people, I'm sure our team has encountered that because in some organizations they think, oh, you're the Chamber of Commerce? No, we're a separate entity. You're mightily quiet. I don't put you on the spot. Any questions for us? No?
She's just enjoying the Miami.
She's going for the ride?
Yeah.
She's going for the ride? Okay.
The croquette thing, like, what was the restaurant that we went to?
Oh, I can't remember.
Okay, but it's across from. You guys know what it is. It's across from the Hyatt Century.
The one I
The
love.
Hyatt Centric on South Beach?
No, in Brickell.
Oh, and Brickell.
But anyways, it's around it. And my son and I came last year, and the Garrison was croquettes. I'm like, I have to order more. And then I said to her, we gotta go to this restaurant, and I didn't realize it was such a thing down here. Okay, and then you're telling me there's a bar that.
It's huge.
No, and it's like what's the
They're back
Twilight?
there.
Team what? Team.
Are there?
The two
Yeah.
teams. It's either
Oh,
Isla Canarias or Vicky, I guess, or Versailly.
But anyway, so I didn't know that was a thing down here, but you
Yeah,
know.
it's a thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
So are hot dogs.
What I ask you a question? Do you work with, or if you do, how actively you work with concierge associations? Do you work with hotel staff? Do you communicate with them regularly? Is there a share of?
We do. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of. We pride ourselves on being inclusive and transparent. So we have lots of meetings, sometimes too many. But in fact, day before yesterday, I gave the opening remarks to the annual meeting of the Concierge Association at the Marriott Marquis downtown. So Miguel Pena, he's the president. He's a friend. We work with him a lot. Concierges, they are so critical to the customer experience. So we spend a lot of time inviting them to events, educating them. We recognize amazing efforts that they do in our publications. We put them on a pedestal. I feel we can do more. And I was just thinking about, wouldn't it be great if we had like a massive, quick text blast, and it's like the tip of the day for concierges at the beginning of the day. Hey, did you know the best hot dog is are better. And just give them these little factoids, but on a very timely basis, because they are the closest in many cases to the client. So that's, but we do work with them. We meet with all our major group hotels. You know, we meet with them at least once a quarter. Then we have a boutique hotel, smaller, which thank you for participating in that. We probably have about 7 different committees that we meet with on an ongoing basis. And that's good, but those meetings tend to be more about reporting, so it doesn't allow enough dialogue. And that's ultimately what we want, kind of like this. So we have to rethink how these gatherings, because it's a lot of time, and it's not just our time, it's your time. We want to make sure that it's as valuable as possible, but we're
And if I
trying.
could add to that, from that facilitation with the cultural arts committee, one of the things that came out is they felt like the concierge was a tough crowd to crack, and they felt they weren't able to get their attention without standing on their heads or doing some fancy things.
Or paying them?
I didn't want to say that. I was trying to be
Yes.
nice and keep that part to myself. But yes, exactly. I mean, we're here. We're having open dialogue. So what they asked the GMCVB to do is to be that middle person by sharing contact information so that the attraction can directly get to the concierge and give the information and cultivate a relationship that doesn't require you to have the big payback or the big payout or what have you. So it felt to me, gathering the information, capturing the notes, that group of people who are curators of museums, one was with the Redland Trail, I mean, all of these different attractions, the Coral Castle, they felt a little that it's difficult to get the attention of the concierge. So I don't know how you could take that information and maybe digest it, but I'm just saying we hope to, the GMCVB could facilitate a better relationship, I believe, by putting them together, putting the concierge with the attraction or with the restaurant or with the business.
So as we wrap up, just want to bring your attention, we have a website dedicated to this process. It's destinationmiami.org. We encourage you to go there. There's videotapes of all the other town hall meetings, and this one will be there too. We'll edit some stuff out. But it's also a great place to do an online survey that we're pushing out throughout the community. So if you have any additional suggestions, ideas, please visit the website or send us an email, strategicplan@gmcvb.com. Everything is going to be taken into consideration. In terms of our timing, you saw earlier, once we finish our town hall meetings on August 1st, we're going to be having a workshop with our board where the consultants will share some preliminary findings, and then we'll finalize the plan. And then our annual meeting, come on back down, October.
I usually do.
Pardon?
I usually come.
So at our annual meeting will probably be the official public unveiling, although I'm confident we'll have a preliminary draft well in advance of that. So that's kind of a snapshot of the process. Thank you for coming. We do have croquetas there. You want to take croquetas to
You
go?
might want to check out that bar.
Yeah. But thanks again. We enjoyed it.
Thank you.